Good evening and welcome to Alan's Italy. Tonight's show, which is show number 80, is really dedicated to Laura Gerton. And Laura and I, of course, take our trips together. And when we take a trip together, usually I do most of the planning, most of the nitty-gritty planning. But in terms of the actual determination of where we go and what we do, Laura has a pretty tremendous input. And I ask for her input because I like when she helps me pick out hotels and destinations. It gives me a feeling that, a validation of what I'm doing. And, normally this is the way things are done. So, of course, we have 3 friends that we visit, 2 very close friends, Lydia and Luca, and we also have our friend Franco. And these are 3 friends that I met first and whose friendship I cultivated during the time even before I even knew Laura. And this past time that we went to Italy, of course, a lot of the trip was dedicated to Laura herself because she was in the Venice Biennale and everything kind of revolved around that activity. But while we were in Florence, the plan was to travel to a lot of different locations around Tuscany using Florence as our base of operations. And I had a lot of things planned and things that we were going to do. And then Laura made friends with an Italian artist. And that's what tonight's story is about. That relationship that began at a gallery in Florence where Laura saw his work for the first time and nurtured into a friendship that resulted in our making a trip to meet him and his family in a very remote, well, it's not really a remote town, but it's a town that is not really on the top list of people traveling through Tuscany. So tonight's show which is show number 80, is called Colle di Val. That's the name of the town, and the artist with whom Laura became friends is Matteo Cocci. And you could see right off the bat by looking at the picture of the photo of the entrance to Colle di Val that this is a pretty amazing place. So let's go back and talk about the story. So, of course, Laura was the person who initiated this particular trip, and this is how it happened. We were in Florence, and this was a couple of years ago, and I don't really remember this, but when Laura goes to art galleries and exhibitions and museums, she really makes a mental note of exactly what she sees. And then when she gets home, she Googles it and goes into Facebook and, does a little more. But she saw the art of Matteo Cocci. And he's, obviously much younger than we are. And that's a sample of his art behind him, which we'll look at more closely in a little while. And Matteo and Laura began exchanging emails. And Matteo said that his studio and his home is located in Prato. Prato is a town that is about perhaps 15 or 20 minutes to the north west of Florence. And Laura said, well, I'd like to go visit Matteo someday, and I'd like to visit his studio. And I said, well, that's a great idea because I haven't been to the town of Prato in a long time, since before I knew Laura, and I'd like to go back and photograph it and do an Alan's Italy on the town of Prato. So she said, great, this is going to work out perfectly. And we began working out a plan, And then at the last minute, Matteo told us that he was going to be in a gallery in the town of Colle di Val. And, Laura came into me in my den and said, "Do you know where Colle di Val is?" And I said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, I've kind of always wanted to go there, but in the back of my mind felt that that's a location that I probably will never go to." And I'll talk about why in a moment. But boy, would that be a great idea. So we decided that we were going to take a side trip, but to get there, you kind of need, to get to Prato, for example, we would just hop on a train. The train would take us right there, and that would be very easy. But this is a little more remote, in a remote location in Tuscany. So we would either have to have driven there or take a train and maybe switch to a bus, and it would have been a very difficult thing. Plus, Matteo did not speak English very well. So the conclusion I came to was that we should try to get my friend Luca Roloni to perhaps drive us there and to also do the translating. And that's what the story is going to be based on. So there's Luca, whom you've seen many, many times on this show. He's one of my two closest friends and very, very dear to me. And that's the two of us sitting in his town, in the town square of Foligno Valdarno. And he was going to do the driving. And at the time, of course, we were not only with Luca, Laura and I, but also with Laura's cousin, Barbara, who's on the left, and our other friend, and a friend of ours, Barbara, who lives in Woodstock, who has her arms around me and Luca. So the five of us head off into a really horrible day. It was raining and foggy and miserable, and we began heading into Tuscany. And here is a picture. I don't have a specific picture of where Colle di Val is, but I could pinpoint it pretty much for you. This is a map that I've shown before of Tuscany in relation to all of Italy. You could see Florence right in the middle, and Prato would have been like right over here, right next to it, and Colle would probably be down over here to the south and slightly to the west. And here's a better picture. Here's Florence right here with its Italian name of Firenze. Here is the town of San Gimignano. Here's Siena, which is almost due south of Florence and perhaps about an hour drive, maybe a little more than an hour. And this is the town of San Gimignano that I have been to about 3 or 4 times, and Laura's been to a couple of times. The town of Colle di Val is right in this area, right near San Gimignano. So right over here, and it would be very difficult to get to, as I said, unless really somebody drove directly there, and somebody like Luca who really knew the area extremely well. And this is the town right here. This is actually a panoramic shot that was taken by Laura with me, as you could see there in the front, and Barbara talking to each other. And this is what it looks like as you enter the town. It's really a castle. It's really like going to visit a castle in Tuscany, except that it's kind of a major city. It's not like one of these real tiny little castle towns that we've been to. This is like a town that is pretty substantial. And this is another view of the castle from a different angle as we were actually driving up to the town. And you could see that it just, as you approach it, you just know this is going to be something really, really special. So this is the town of Colle di Val, and let me tell you a little bit about it. First of all, it has 2 parts. It has an upper part and a lower part. The lower part is the usual kind of pedestrian, kind of industrial part of a town, which is sometimes known as the Scalo district, which is the suburbs, and the upper portion, which is called Colle Alta, which is Upper Colle, is the part that I'm showing you right now, and that's the medieval center. And the town developed along the river Elsa. Colle di Val d'Elsa means Colle along the river. From around the 11th century, and that's when it had its peak, this town. And it is the birthplace of a very, very famous Tuscan architect by the name of Arnolfo di Cambio. And Arnolfo di Cambio is somebody we've mentioned on this show a few times. You may remember, he is the architect of the Florence Cathedral, which is obviously one of the most beautiful cathedrals in all the world. He is also the architect of the Church of Santa Croce in Florence, another one of the really great churches of Italy. He's also the architect of the Palazzo Vecchio, which is the town hall from the 13th century in Florence. And he's also the architect of the cathedral in Orvieto. And he was born in Colle di Val d'Elsa in the year 1240. We're not sure of when he died, and I'm sure he didn't die in Colle. He probably died somewhere else, perhaps Florence, in either the year 1300 or 1310. When it was originally built, it was built for very wealthy nobles, and a lot of the houses you see around the town are the houses of the wealthy nobles, such as the Lucci family, the Marozzi family, the Giusti family, and the Dini family. And this is the trip we took to get to Colle. And this is actually probably a break in the weather, because I could see that there's some blue skies there. And, this is a drive through Tuscany, and you come across these extraordinarily beautiful sights. This is what really grabs people. And this is a very, very typical Tuscan town as you enter Tuscany going from Florence south. This is a distant view of the town as we approached it. And Luca had a very, very difficult time finding the upper portion of the town. He had no trouble finding the lower portion, but he had a tremendous amount of difficulty finding the address that we were going to, which is the address of the gallery, and that's what was the most trouble. Here we are actually approaching the main gates of the town. We are now just about on the main gate, just about to go through, and this is the walkway around the town. A lot of the Tuscan hill towns have these walkways around it, which give you the spectacular view of the countryside, and this is, what you see. And you can see there, as you walk along this walkway, there are benches for people to sit and look at the magnificent scenery, as you could see it there in the distance. First, the close-in view, and then some mountain view behind it. I'm not sure what that mountain range is, but if we are looking in the direction of south, it could be Mount Amiata, which is probably about a 30-minute drive from Colle di Val d'Elsa going south towards Pitigliano. This is a view of over the rooftop at the Tuscan countryside. You can see the clouds coming over. This is another view. And, we were anticipating this really beautiful town. Now, so here's the story. So I've gone to this region a lot in my life. As I told you, I've been to San Gimignano 3 or 4 times. I've been to Monte Regione, which is a town not far from there, perhaps 3 times. I've been to Siena 3 times, and this is all in that same area. And I've been to the town of Volterra, which is not far away, a couple of times. But I always noticed Colle on the map, and I always looked at pictures of it, but I just never thought I'd get there because I'd be going to some of these other towns. So I was really very excited about going to Colle di Val d'Elsa. And here's some more pictures as we enter the town. And this is as we actually enter the main street. And you could see 2 people in the distance. I'm not sure if that's, the people we were with, but you could see they have umbrellas. And the sky is very overcast. And you could see that as we walk up some of the streets of Colle, you could see that the streets are wet from the recent rainstorm. But And it looks like a typical Tuscan town walking around the streets. When I showed you pictures of Pistoia last week, this is some of the scenes we had, and you notice it's parking on one side of the street only because the streets are so narrow. And this is one of the restaurants in Colle. This is a bakery, panetteria. Pane means bread, and a panetteria is the bakery. And this is walking down the street. I think this is walking in the direction of the restaurant that we eventually had lunch. And you get this type of view. This is one of my favorite views in all of my Tuscan experiences, and that is a town where you have this block that comes out very narrow, and the street that you're on kind of branches into two parts. And this is very common. There's a few streets like this in Florence. There's another one. So these are different places. When I first looked, I said it's the same thing but a different angle. Then I realized it's a different spot. So Florence and Tuscany have towns of this type with streets that kind of branch off into two directions in that way. This is a view looking towards the back way, the back entrance. You could see it's an archway through the battlements. And the houses are very beautiful, as you could see. With Laura loves to take pictures of doors, and this is certainly a beautiful one. And then eventually we wind up at the gallery, and this is the gallery where Matteo Cocci was appearing, and this is some of his art. So first, I'd like to show you some of the art that appeared in the gallery. The name of the gallery was Arte a Colore. It was run by the gallery owner, whose name is Francesca Sensi, and we will see her in a few moments because she helps us to translate the interview we did that will be on video. But this is the art that he has done, and it has kind of a children's veneer to it. You could see that the scenes are kind of the scenes you would see in pictures for children. And he explains it in his interview really brilliantly, so I'm not going to say too much because he could probably do a much better job. But, Laura was immediately taken by his art when she saw it in Florence, and of course was very eager to meet him again and have him talk about his art because she hadn't met him prior to the visit that we took. This is actually, the picture of the painting, and this is a close-up. You could see you could see just how really lighthearted it is. And here is the video, I believe. So, Ellen, whenever you're ready, let me know. Okay, we are here today at a gallery. Now, what is the name of the gallery?
The name of the gallery is Francesca Sensi, who is me.
Yes.
Francesca Sensi Arte a Colori Gallery. It means gallery with a lot of colors.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're in the town of Colle di Val, which is right in the heart of Tuscany, south of Florence. And we're here with Matteo Cocci. Welcome to the show, and Francesca. And we'd like to ask you a few questions about your life and your work.
Yes,
so,
I will translate. Matteo Cocci is one of my favorite artists. We just started to work together, but he's an artist, and so it's better to ask to him how he developed his work. Come hai sviluppato il tuo lavoro di artista?
La traduzione.
Yes,
In Italian. Say it in Italian.
Io lavoro con la pittura da circa 10 anni. La tecnica è una tecnica che si è sviluppata nel corso di questo tempo in maniera casuale, seguendo degli errori. Attraverso questi errori sono arrivato praticamente a portare a termine una tecnica, credo, personale. I materiali utilizzati sono carta, bitume, gesso, colori ad olio e colori acrilici.
Adesso traduco.
Vai.
See, Matteo is working from more than 10 years. He's a painter. He started as a painter. He developed his own technique cause of mistake. That's quite interesting.
Really?
Yes, because for error or for mistake, he wrong something and then he find it really interesting to follow the mistake. So from this part, he developed his own technique made of paper, made of oil, made of mixed technique on board, principalmente.
Yeah.
I don't know, principalmente, I know what to say in English. And then
Only on board.
only on board. Why and why?
Okay.
Yes, but why? Perché solo su
Perché io uso per fare le sovrapposizioni le carte vengono tagliate con una lama, quindi con un trincetto, e quindi non posso avere una superficie morbida sotto, ma serve una superficie dura.
So he cannot work with canvas, with any kind of canvas. He needs to work on board. That's because he needs to cut and to put in evidence detail on the back. So he put paper and then he paint, then he put other paper, then he paint, then he take it off, and then he cut again. So, and this is absolutely particular technique. It's only of Matteo Cocci. So that's no means that an artist is an artist because has a good technique, but it's important that a good technique is part of your life to express the meaning of one artwork. The artwork of Matteo is family, happiness, joy, and you can go on. And what's
Bicycle,
that?
animals, and
Family life.
family life, and è un'ispirazione a volte alcune letture fatte, però quando inizio a lavorare non conosco il risultato finale, cioè io non inizio dicendo realizzo un paesaggio. Durante il lavoro seguo praticamente, cioè non è la mia testa che dice al lavoro dove andare, è il lavoro che dice alla mia testa dove andare, quindi quando ci sono delle particolarità che l'occhio riesce a vedere le seguo. E quindi soltanto quando decido che è finito, a quel punto ha un significato e do un titolo, però è sempre il lavoro che mi manda in una
Okay, I'll
direzione.
ask you to now translate.
Right. The theme of inspiration are books, theater, childhood. These are quite important. He mixed together. Not all the time he knows what is going to happen when he paints, but something more strong than him dictate how to do. So maybe he started with an idea of a book and then it became out a landscape. The title of the work are relating, for example, how is the title of this book?
Mosca Petuschi
Mosca Petuschi is the book, actually.
sì, è un libro di uno scrittore russo
Of the Russian
contemporaneo,
writer.
Viktor Rofev, parla di un viaggio da Mosca a Petuschi dove succedono cose surreali e grottesche e soprattutto molto alcoliche ai protagonisti del viaggio. Però quando io ho iniziato a fare questo lavoro non volevo fare Mosca Petuschi.
Okay, so it's funny because the book in general are point of inspiration. The language of art is oniric language. Oniric, can you? Dreaming language.
Right.
So you are able to get in any part of your soul when you are in a dream. So it's just the point of inspiration, and is a story, but everybody of us can understand his own story through a painting of Matteo Cocci.
In other words, he creates the art with a story in mind,
Right.
but everybody has their own perception of what the story is to their own, how it relates to their own life.
And that's art. I think that's art.
That is art. Laura's work has evolved from a mistake that she made,
Really?
and she created this whole style. Yeah, we can talk about that later. How many minutes do you have on that?
7.
So, okay, let's keep going then. So would you
Do
like
you have
to
any
pick
more questions?
another
Yes.
piece?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another piece. This is also a landscape. The title of this, do you
Ci sto
remember?
pensando. Paesaggio con limousine.
Okay, this is a landscape with a limousine. Can you see
Uh-huh.
Yes.
it? Okay, and
Tell him I love his bicycles. But there have been many bicycles.
Sì, la bicicletta è un elemento che uso spesso esclusivamente perché praticamente mi permette di disegnarla perché io incido praticamente un disegno senza staccare il polso. Cioè è come se un disegno automatico.
it's a sign for him. It's
Yes.
really simple to drawing, and also is the symbol of going on
Right.
somewhere.
A
So-
Perché appunto
transportation, yes.
il simbolo della ruota, della rotazione, del giro, poi c'è la
Yes.
giardina, la bicicletta, insomma sono tante cose.
Life is
So-
like a wheel.
Life is like a wheel.
Life
Very
is like a
good.
wheel, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Esatto.
So these funny animals, the childhood is here.
Mhm.
It's quite difficult for an artist to be childish.
I understand, yes, I agree.
Because particularly for a person who is really able to work and is really able to paint in an academic way, to be regressive
Yeah,
and
exactly.
to be childish is the most
Yeah.
difficult things
Yes.
to do.
Yes.
So this is the, I think, the particularity of Matteo that is going to look at the easy and something that deeply touch you. And child are really good in this.
Does he have children?
Do you have any? Hai bambini?
Due bambine,
Girls?
Two
Kids?
girls, due bambine, 9 e 5 anni.
Of 9 and 5
No,
years
scusa,
old?
9, 3.
Do
3?
they
Yes, how many
Sorry,
children?
sorry.
do they inspire you? Do they inspire
Sì,
you?
io lavoro anche con i laboratori, con le materne,
In your studio?
dentro le scuole per l'infanzia. Faccio laboratori con massimo 15 bambini e facciamo una tecnica simile alla mia.
It took a lot of inspiration in the world of the primary school because they are more true people and children and kids are really true in drawing. So it took inspiration. He also has 2 kids, so that's
That's great.
Mi interessa il disegno, il modo di dipingere il disegno dei bambini fino circa ai 6-8 anni. Poi dopo
until 6 years is interesting how they draw. After they have school in their mind,
Right,
so they can't
right.
really be free.
Right.
So he's looking for freeness.
Now,
Freeness.
right,
Yes.
are his children inspired by his work?
Oh,
To-
sono
to
ispirati
stay-
dal tuo lavoro i bambini? Ai bambini piace il tuo lavoro?
Molto, sì.
Ah.
Più che altro piace, cioè il laboratorio, cioè si divertono a vedere sì i quadri, però durante il laboratorio si divertono con la tecnica perché riescono praticamente a incidere, colorare, attaccare su 3 supporti diversi in una volta sola e quindi il materiale è abbondante per loro.
Okay, yes, they like it. They are inspired by him, and also they are free to compose. and to have the glue colors mixed together. So yes,
Right.
is a point. Also, his work
Is
is point of
inspired.
inspiration for the children.
Right.
E
Yes.
vabbè, l'ultima cosa, cioè io quando faccio il laboratorio porto il quadro a farlo vedere prima di iniziare il laboratorio e si crea un buon rapporto perché non sono di fronte al quadro realistico che normalmente poi mi chiedono, che per chi deve disegnare magari incute timore perché lo deve fare uguale. In questo caso mi avvicino più al loro modo di pensare, spero.
Yes, he said that children, when they look at something that is realistic or classic or academic, they feel all the time unable to reach that kind
Right.
of stuff. And when they are in front of Matteo, they feel how I can do it as well. So, yes.
Fascinating.
Yes, really fascinated because for children it's easy. For him is to take off what he knows.
Right, right.
Well, I mean, Laura and I were both teachers,
Oh,
so we understand that feeling that children have, the frustration
yeah,
of
frustrated.
being forced to exist in an adult world.
Right.
And we try to like make them believe in themselves
Yes.
and you know, express themselves the way they wish to express themselves
See.
without all the restrictions of society. Very, very
Yes.
interesting. Can I ask a question? When did you develop this style? About how many years ago?
Quanti anni? Da quanto tempo stai sviluppato questo stile?
Sono 7 anni, 7 years.
7 years? Now, were you an artist before that?
No, prima io cercavo qualcosa.
Before he was looking for something, but
Right.
he didn't really feel an artist. It was just looking for something.
Non sono mai stato attratto dalla pittura tradizionale né dalla pittura realistica.
Is never been attracted by realistic and classic painting.
Cercavo un modo per tradurre un pensiero veloce in testa con una tecnica che avesse una risposta altrettanto veloce.
He needs to have the translator of his mind. I mean, an artist first is a mind artist all the time. He is looking in all his life. Matteo is really young, but in life of artists, all the time you're looking something that respects your thought, your mind. So now he find it. Maybe it's gonna change. We don't
But my
know.
question, was he, for example, you want to stop and start
Soon,
again?
just finish,
Okay.
but
Were you trained as an artist?
What do you mean?
art school.
Did he learn
Hai
in
fatto
an art school?
l'accademia,
Art
hai
school.
fatto la scuola
Ho fatto
d'arte.
accademia di belle arti, però ho fatto scenografia per il teatro, non pittura. Non avevo mai dipinto fino a 10 anni fa, non trovavo la pittura molto interessante, fino a che non ho cominciato a giocare con i materiali.
Okay, he studied art in academia, but he never really was interested in painting. So when he stopped the school, he started to be an
Right.
artist.
I see,
Yes.
I see.
Molto bella.
Molto bene.
Molto bene, grazie.
Molto bene.
Thank you.
Well,
Shake 'em.
I would like him, okay, would you like to stop, just stop now, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for your art.
Thank you to
And thank
you,
you for
and thank you for the
translating. Your
television.
gallery is beautiful,
Thank you so much.
and it was a pleasure to
Grazie.
interview you today. Thank you very much.
Grazie.
Thank you.
Nice, huh? So am I back? Yes, so, you know, that was quite a treat, you know, we didn't know what to expect. We never know what to expect when we do an interview. And this turned out to be, serendipitously, it was wonderful because the gallery owner was right there to translate, and she knew about his art because she was one of the people who promotes his art. So it was perfect. And he stood right in front of his some of his pieces and was talking about it, and it was really, it was stacking up to be a really wonderful experience. And this is. Then of course I had volunteered to treat Matteo and his wife to dinner and to lunch rather. So we asked for a good restaurant, and this was the restaurant that was recommended to us, Officina. If I'm going to try to get this, Officina della Cucina Popolare. And that's the address in Colle di Val. And it was a very pretty restaurant. It was informal, but it was, very crowded when we got there. And we took a few pictures of, this Laura with Matteo, and his wife is to his right. And this is a picture that I took of all the people that we had lunch with. And I'll, just from left to right, going around the table, we have my friend Luca, who is in the striped sweater on the left side, and right next to him on the right side is Barbara, our friend, and right next to Barbara is, I think that was his mother-in-law, and then right next to his mother-in-law is his child, and next to the child is his father-in-law, and then on Matteo's right side is his wife, and then Matteo, and then Barbara, our cousin who was with us on this trip, and then Laura. And we had a really wonderful dinner in this restaurant. There's another view, kind of a better view really, because everybody was kind of now facing the camera, that was taken by our cousin Barbara, and I was in this picture. And you could see some of the food that was on the table right there. These are two of the dishes. This is like, again, unbelievable to look at. This was an unbelievable pasta dish, if I remember correctly. That was really, very, very special. And then when we left the restaurant, we took a picture of Matteo's family, standing right outside the restaurant. And then we kind of walked around the town a little more of Colle di Val. And, some of the shots are really beautiful. These are medieval streets that are quite amazing, as you could see. And, there are beautiful archways taking you from one part of the town to another with medieval walls. And this is all the way it was. If you want to picture what life was like in Tuscany 500 years ago, this is certainly what it looked like. And these are some of the narrow streets, obviously, as you could see, devoid of cars. More archways. And, this particular archway, and I've shown this before, sometimes you had these passageways getting from one building to another, and this is one of them. There was also one in the other picture as well of that middle portion right above the arch connecting two buildings. And you could see that, you look down a little alleyway or a little street and you see this spectacular Tuscan view. Another door of some kind of building. And this is a view of looking at the main gate, but from a distance. So we had to, walk first down that little incline and then up to get to the main gate. And this is what the street looks like. Really, a really, really beautiful town. There's another view of that same spot, but from a little further back of that street that broke into two streets. More archways. That's actually a close-up of the one we had before, connecting the two buildings. And just beautiful old brick buildings. Look at this shot. And this is, these spots are very good. These little piazzas where, right over the walls where you could just look out and see one of the beautiful Tuscan scenes. So this is, this is what we look for when we're walking around the various towns. We look for locations where you could see over the ramparts and over the walls into the countryside. And this is a picture of, I think that's Luca with me behind him, carrying the umbrella. And, there's a little motorcycle, actually a Vespa, which is, kind of a motorbike with the beautiful houses over there. Another view of that street that led to the archway. Look at that beautiful old buildings. And coming out now from the main town, and that brings us to the close. My thanks to Matteo Cocci for his great art, of course, and also for the wonderful interview. And I'd also like to thank him for joining us for lunch with his family, so we had a chance to really get to meet his family. That was really wonderful. And a special thanks to Francesca Sensi for hosting us at her gallery and providing that really wonderful translation. And not only the translation, but also an interpretation of Matteo's work. This is the logo from her gallery, Arte a Colori, on the same street that the restaurant was located in Colle di Val. And we hope to return there someday. The next show, which will be next week on Allen's Italy, which will be a look at one of the really extraordinary hill towns. This is not Tuscany, this is Umbria. And there's a story behind this, and I think it's a very interesting story, and I will be telling it on the next show, looking at another one of the most beautiful little hill towns in central Italy. So that brings us to the end, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to watch, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and that was certainly a great interview, and I hope you enjoyed that video interview as well. Until next week, buona notte e buona fortuna.